Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the side event, Partnership in Action, particularly looking at how collaboration and innovation help us strive for impact. My name is Amir Omeragic. I work for UNOPS. Specifically, I'm leading the UNOPS Peace Security Cluster. Today, we have a number of exciting topics. We have a fantastic panel. I'll explain a little bit later how we're going to run the session. I just want to thank you for joining us today. I know we are in a competition with other fantastic side events organized by as part of this conference. So, but I'm sure you'll help us make this side event interactive with your questions, which we're also planning during the session. So, a few words about UNOPS. We see ourselves as facilitators of this event. We will speak about UNOPS, of course, but we always, as we did for the last couple of years in Geneva during National Directors Meeting, seen this event as an opportunity to bring our partners to see how our work connects and intersects with other organizations' work, without whom, without which, we would not be able to demonstrate success, and we would certainly not be able to drive for impact. So this is a footprint of work that falls within the MAN action, explosive threat management. But just to step back, UNOPS is an organization with much stronger outreach. It's around 120 countries. It's around 8,000 personnel. This is a snapshot that is obviously relevant for this conference. And you can see here boxes and numbers, and I'll come back to that in a moment. It is actually to provoke a discussion a little bit. It's a start point. It's certainly not the end. And maybe very quickly to the next slide. As an example of service lines that all of you would recognize either as part of your work or of work of other MAN action partners. So again, it's an example. I'm not going to go through it in details, but this reflects work of UNOPS in this particular sector. And if you can, Hannah, help me go back. So why did I say this is a bit of a to provoke a discussion? Numbers are numbers. UNOPS, as all of you in the room, don't work for numbers. We work for people. We work for impact. We work for the missions we have. But it's a start point. We need to know what is the output of our work. However, behind the numbers and behind these boxes are stories of immense needs, immense suffering, injuries, but also stories of resilience, stories of success, stories of problem solving. And when I think about people, when I think about missions, and when I think about impact, that's precisely where I see MAN action demonstrates it across all the operations and organizations present in this room and in this conference. So if we could, I think that's in terms of the introduction. Actually, I'll explain a little bit how we're going to run this side event. We'll have 3 segments. The first segment will focus on supporting national authorities in countries, and you have the first segment represented by a fantastic panel here. I'll introduce them as well. The second segment will focus on implementation. We will look at how actually through country, cross-section of countries, how implementation actually looks like. UNOPS, in its own mandate and its own focus, stands for implementation. We stand for actually doing things, making things happen amongst the UN system. So we would also like to see how does implementation look like in places like Gaza, in places like Sudan, places like the DRC. The third and final segment will be about innovation, collaboration and innovation. And we have some exciting examples of thought leadership, but more than anything else, the application of innovation. Innovation is only a great idea and remains a great idea if it is not implemented. So we really will explore with our information management team how the application of that looks like. So onwards to the first segment in supporting national authorities. We'll have I'll start with David McMahon, who's our head of mine action program in Ukraine. We also have a colleague joining us from State Special Transport Services, Colonel Mikhailo Konopelnik. Thank you both for joining us. They will specifically look at the case study of Ukraine and show us how, when we engage in support of national authorities, when we work together with national authorities, one of the main and key objectives is not to replace, it's really to respond, to find a way, the best way, how do we actually support national authorities. So I'll hand over to David and Colonel Konopelnik. Over to you.
Good morning. So my name is David McMahon. I've been in Ukraine for about 2 years. So UNOPS has been in Ukraine since 2014. The Peace and Security Cluster started engaging in Ukraine around a few months after the full-scale conflict. We're very fortunate that we have a number of Ukrainians who have worked with the Peace and Security Cluster and UNMAS around the world for over 10 to 15 years. And we're very fortunate that they have been, were in Ukraine. They're former senior military officers, and they were a guiding force behind our actions in Ukraine in the beginning. In early 2023, one of my predecessors, who actually happens to be in the room, led a capacity needs assessment which engaged with numerous state entities in Ukraine. That was the National Police, CESU, who were both under the Ministry of Interior. And we also, at that time, it was identified that the Special State Transport Service, who were under the Ministry of Defense, were a key player in mine action in Ukraine. However, as they were part of the Ministry of Defense, it was particularly difficult to get them funding. We conducted a human rights due diligence process on SSTS to ensure that the work that they were doing was purely humanitarian, and that was approved by the Resident Coordinator's Office of Ukraine, the United Nations Resident Coordinator's Office. So they endorsed our work with the Ministry of Defense and SSTS. We then secured funding. So the government of the Netherlands had the foresight to agree with our findings and accepted our proposal, and we started implementation well over a year ago. Ukraine is a crowded space, and the United States Department of State and Tetra Tech were already working with SSTS. However, at that time, we weren't really sure what our area was, how we would cooperate and collaborate with each other. And in the very beginning, we facilitated and arranged meetings between the government of the Netherlands, United States Department of State, Tetra Tech, ourselves, and also MSB of Sweden. So we made a joint collaboration together. We also, right now, we're exchanging a lot of information with other donors, including the Lithuanian Demining Coalition and other UN agencies. So I'm going to hand over to Colonel Mikhailo to speak about the actual project. I'm sorry, there is a short video, I believe, before he speaks.
Підрозділи ДССТ займаються гуманітарним розмінуванням на деокупованих територіях. Нещодавно ми отримали від UNOPS машину розмінування DocInc MV10. Це основна машина для розмінування, вона комплектується спеціальним валом, який може витримувати вибухи протитанкових мін. МВ-10 – це машина, з якої все починається. Вона першою заходить на поле, проходить повністю, потім вже запускаються сапери. Тобто це машина, які забезпечують більший захист, ризик для особового складу знижується дуже суттєво. Також сапери мають змогу працювати швидше, їм не треба витрачати час на розчищення рослинності. Ми отримали майже повну комплектацію для одного з наших батальйонів, повністю екіпірування і готовність всього батальйону до виконання завдань саме з гуманітарного розмінування. Поставки обладнання означають, що наші команди можуть працювати швидше, ефективніше, паркувати більше територію. Зміцнюється безпека громад, і ми в змозі долати наслідки російського вторгнення.
Mine action is incredibly relevant to protecting civilians in Ukraine. It's also the first step to recovery. This project directly supports the State Special Transport Service of Ukraine. It's delivering equipment, training, mentoring, monitoring of efforts. And UNOPS believes that aligning with existing efforts will increase sustainability. We're incredibly proud of our work through this project, and we're incredibly proud of supporting SSTS.
Дякую, Девід. З вашого дозволу я продовжу українською. Шановні пані та панове, дякую за вашу присутність, за можливість мені відрекомендувати вам Державну спеціальну службу транспорту. Я буду коротко. Державна спеціальна служба транспорту є підрозділом, окремим підрозділом Міністерства оборони України, який підпорядковується міністру оборони України, і ми не є складовою Збройних сил України. На сьогодні Державна спеціальна служба транспорту має 4 важливих завдання. Це побудова фортифікаційного обладнання, охорона об'єктів транспортної інфраструктури, відбудова об'єктів транспортної інфраструктури та 4, найголовніше наше завдання – це проведення робіт з гуманітарного розмінування. На початок 2022 року у складі Державної спеціальної служби транспорту було всього-навсього 50 демінерів. На сьогодні ми є найбільшим підрозділом за численним особовим складом. 54% всіх активностей з протимінної діяльності у 2024 році це склала робота Державної спеціальної служби транспорту. На сьогодні до нашої протимінної складової входить 1 бригада розмінування, 4 окремих батальйони розмінування, рота підводного розмінування, центр розмінування, який складається у нас виключно з цивільного персоналу, а також центр протимінної діяльності, який організовує роботу всю протимінної діяльності в Україні. На сьогодні ми налічуємо близько 3000 саперів, також 250 нашого нового персоналу проходить навчання і скоро поповнить лави Державної спеціальної служби транспорту. Наш план на цей та наступний рік – довести кількість демінерів до 5000 осіб та створити додаткову роту підводного розмінування, тому що підводне розмінування дуже актуальне зараз на сьогодні в Україні. І йому приділяється менше уваги, ніж наземному розмінуванню. На цьому слайді ми показали активність нашої служби у 2024 році на 2 прикладах. Відсоток проведення нетехнічного та технічного обстеження, який склав за рік 65%, це були підрозділи, провели Державна спеціальна служба транспорту. І також 43% знищених вибухонебезпечних предметів було зроблено нашими фахівцями. Дякую, Девід.
So I'll very quickly, I've been asked to focus on lessons learned. The lessons learned for me was, number 1, having done this in a lot of countries, the Ukrainian state has, for me, has been a reliable and dependable partner in this project. The state provides salaries, running costs, insurance, all of the running costs for this project, making it sustainable. The donors are providing technical support, training, mentoring, equipment, but the bulk of the project is actually delivered by the state in terms of the national state budget. Second lesson that I've noted is that implementation, operations, donors, everybody needs to be flexible. And I thank the Dutch for their flexibility. As an example, on this project, we have amended it. We are now amending it for the third time. The reason we amend it is because Ukraine is dynamic, it is fast. So when we write a project proposal and when we go to implement, we often find that somebody else has done the work or the work is done already. Therefore, we have to adjust. Another lesson learned is that Ukraine is a fully functioning state. It's not like working in other countries that the United Nations or donors just arrive and do what they want. In Ukraine, there's Ukrainian laws, there's labor law, there's building regulations, there's safety codes. So as an example, when procuring PPE or doing other procurements or implementation, we must adhere to Ukrainian national standards. Another lesson was that the many donors find it difficult to work with the Ministry of Defense. But going forward, I see that more donors are now more flexible and that they are receiving the support they need. Another lesson learned for me was when working with SSTS, we procured the whole range of equipment basically to support 500 deminers. And that was an onerous task. It was hundreds of line items of equipment. And in hindsight, we could have done it a little bit smarter. But that's it. I could speak for hours about lessons learned and the benefits of the project, but I'm aware of time. You can ask me questions later. So thank you, Mikhailo, and the Dutch and other donors. Thank you all for your support. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, David. Thank you, Colonel Kolopelnik, for reflecting and giving us a showcased success of the project funded by the government of Netherlands. Thank you for sharing the lessons learned in particular. What does state-led mean in terms of understanding the needs, but also financing? And thank you for highlighting agility as one of the features of our relationship. We'll switch gears and switch topics. We'll actually ask our colleagues from ATscale, Assistive Technology team, to actually focus on your work. ATscale was actually formed in 2018 as a global partnership, active in a number of countries, but who better to speak about your activities than yourselves? And I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Hannah Alfara, Victim Assistance Specialist and Advocate, and Henri Bonin, ATscale Senior Program Manager. Over to you.
Thank you, Amir. Good morning, everyone. I'm Henry. I work for ATscale. I'm also occupational therapist. ATscale is a global partnership working with governments and with specific donors and also specialized organizations to ensure we have a better access in low and middle income countries, including countries affected by explosive ordnance issues, to assistive technology. And we have a short video to show you what is assistive technology.
Right now, more than 1 billion people globally need assistive technology. Yet 90% do not have access. And without it, they are excluded from education, work, and social life. Every day, we witness assistive technology help bridge the gap between exclusion and inclusion, enabling people to live more healthy, productive, independent, and dignified lives. To look forward, to learn, to work, to participate, to rise and contribute to communities, to be free. At ATscale, we mobilize and unite resources and partners, because together we are stronger. By 2030, we will reach 500 million people to empower them, make a great difference in their lives, and contribute to making the world a more inclusive and prosperous place. It's the smart thing to do. There has never been a more crucial time to join us. Join the movement now. and unlock the potential of millions. ATscale2030.org.
So I think there is no need to explain further what is assistive technology and what is the link with mine action, especially through the victim assistance pillar. We have the chance, thanks to the work of partners and GICHD, to have now a mine action standard dedicated to victim assistance, the UNMAS 13.10. And this mine action standard defines what is victim assistance, how to implement it, and we can see that assistive technology is, of course, part of the rehabilitation services we can bring to the people in need. It includes survivors of explosive ordnance accidents, but also people in communities who have similar needs. And we often witness that we have much more people in need of assistive technology among the population beside survivor of explosive ordnance. And I will let the floor now to Dr. Hannah, who is coming from Damascus, Syria, to talk about the implementation of a national victim assistance working group led by UNMAS and supported technically by UNOPS. Dr. Hannah.
Thank you, Henry. Good morning, all. I'm glad that I can join you here, and thank you for the invitation of UNOPS and the organizers to bring you an example of implementation of the first victim assistance working group program and working group in Syria by UNOPS on behalf of UNMAS. And this program, although it was the first one, but it could reach all its objectives, including the working group. The Victim Assistance Working Group is a multi-sectoral working group who combined all practitioners from all sectors, because as you saw, the activities are variable. So the main objective of the working group is to improve the access of people in need, of victims, to the provided services. The first step to do that is to do the mapping of services, which was very difficult because these services were among different sectors. And in addition to that, the referral to the available services, establish referral pathway, and additional activity is to give the support to the national initiatives and national NGOs. For the mapping of services, it's also visualized through a dashboard, interactive dashboards, including interactive map, that can filter the available services by governorate, by sub-district, by district, and also by implementing partner and sector. So in this way, the end user or the person in need can go directly to this online link and search for the services that they need, especially that all the focal points, contacts, and information is available, and already take approval of those people to publish publicly. After we do the service mapping, we have to establish the referral pathways. And the referral pathways is, as I said, multi-sectoral. So we start with a case identified. If this case is a direct victim, a special victim form will be filled, and it goes into a MISMA database. Then we ask about the needs of this person and go to the service mapping, go through the different services. Is it health, protection, Also, we have social empowerment, inclusive education, inclusive economic inclusion. This is a comprehensive set of services that mostly every victim needs. If this services is available, so we help the persons, especially when we started the referral with the first contacts, and then this referral system was going automatically and systemized. That was a great collaboration between the members of the Victim Assistance Working Group from various sectors like health, protection, livelihood as well, education, and also other sectors. Education I already mentioned. So this is in a nutshell the components of the referral system, and we hope that it will be continued now without the presence of victim assistance component, but through the workers, mine action workers, whether they were risk education, mine deminers, and so on. Thank you. Back to you, Amir.
Thank you, Dr. Anna. I just wanted to finish and to have a word and to thank Ukrainian team with which we are working currently to develop also access to services and especially to prosthetic services in Eastern Ukraine. And it's to underline also in UNOPS the share of competencies with their very good capacity to procure equipment and with ATscale technical capacity to guide a decision on the ground. We could address this request from the Ministry of Health of Ukraine to strengthen prosthetic services in Eastern Ukraine. So it's another example of what we can do. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Henri. Thank you, Dr. Hannah. Really enjoyed, I know it's a glimpse, it's a very quick insight into your work. But in the forums like these, we consistently recognize that victim assistance and work with survivors is underfunded. It's actually, I wouldn't say marginalized, but certainly not, it does not take as prominent space as it should. And ATscale, as an organization hosted by UNOPS, and I really want to recognize also my colleagues from Geneva office who join us today, who actually allow for operationally for fantastic work that ATscale does to actually turn into reality. And we just again demonstrated connecting dots through the work that UNOPS does with different partners is also displayed through the work in Ukraine. So thank you, entirety of the panel. We'll actually move to the next segment. I was actually initially thinking of opening up Q&A per segment, but we'll actually run through the segments, all three, and hopefully have some space for a debate. As they come, I will start introducing my colleagues. Tammy Bunbury, she's head of program working out of Peace Security Cluster in New York. We have Ian Anderson, colleague who is head of operations for the Development Initiative, and we have a David Wiley, Program Quality Director, MAG. So I'll hand over to Tammy to walk us through this particular segment. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to be here. So partnerships is not innovative. Partnerships is the way that we live and breathe our work every day, and we would be able to deliver nothing without partnerships and without the people working in the organizations that we collaborate with on a daily basis in every country and every territory that we work around the world. What is innovative is the agility with which we capitalize on partnerships to deliver the best possible response in a country or in a context to meet the needs of a population. And that creativity and that agility is something that I want to showcase today. Here with the Development Initiative, who represents a commercial contractor partner that works very closely with us, and the Mines Advisory Group, a non-governmental organization partner that we have a long-standing collaborative relationship and have been really creative with lately. So UNOPS uses an incredible set of tools in our toolbox on a daily basis to make sure that we deliver the best possible response in a country. And that requires a different approach in every country and in every organization. And it also requires us to do things differently in every country and in every context. And so I think the interesting part of partnerships is that they never end. The way that we build them together is different in every context, and the way that we learn and develop and grow from those partnerships has resulted in some really creative and innovative responses. So before I hand over to David Willey from the Mines Advisory Group, I want to set the scene a little bit about the context in Gaza, what we've been doing, and how we've chosen to do it. So as we have all heard over the past several days, the devastating humanitarian situation in Gaza has required a response that has been completely different than anything we have ever had to do as the international community, and the context has required much more thoughtful deliberation about a response every step of the way. And so the widespread explosive ordnance contamination has meant that we really have two priorities right now: minimize death and injury to the extent that we can, and facilitate humanitarian access whenever possible, wherever possible. And so in the absence of a capacity on the ground, with authorities able to do it, the resident and humanitarian coordinator requested that the UN Mine Action Service, supported by UNOPS, provide an explosive ordnance disposal response early on in the conflict. And that's because there was no capacity on the ground to mitigate this explosive threat and minimize deaths and injuries. And so what does that mean? It means that we, on behalf of UNMAS, deployed an explosive ordnance disposal capacity, very small international personnel to do explosive threat assessments, as well as to support the humanitarian response, facilitating convoys, etc. And so that capacity needed to grow at some point. And because it's really difficult to get international actors into Gaza, because it's really difficult to build national capacity right now, we turned to a bit of a new and innovative approach. And so using the UNMAS, supported by UNOPS umbrella, we developed an opportunity and developed a means of partnership with non-governmental organizations whereby they could provide technical capacity in explosive ordnance disposal under this UNMAS umbrella in Gaza. And what did that do? That boosted the operational capacity in country, and it also provided an umbrella under which non-governmental organizations could work and have an operational capacity. And so that meant that the United Nations was providing the security and logistical support, and the technical expertise was coming from the partner. So with that, I will hand over to David Willey from the Mines Advisory Group. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tammy, and it's great to be here and speaking to you today, and really, take some time to reflect on this in-kind arrangement that enabled the deployment of an EOD specialist to Gaza, and really highlight the value of the model. And particularly, we'd like to thank the government of Canada, who paid for this support. So following the escalation of conflict in Gaza in October 2023, it was obvious that the explosive ordnance threat there and the immediate danger to civilians was significantly disrupted humanitarian delivery. And whilst the collective response did include explosive hazard assessments, convoy support, and explosive ordnance risk education, it quickly became clear, as Tammy said, that much more experienced EOD capacity was needed on the ground. Now, MAG had a program in Gaza, but we haven't been physically present there since 2010. So we don't have the infrastructure to ensure safe access for our staff or the appropriate security oversight. And so we weren't unable to deploy directly and normally as we'd usually do as an NGO. However, in early 2024, through this mechanism with UNOPS, we were able to identify someone in MAG that we felt had the right experience and technical skill sets for this role, specifically extensive experience in the region in both Iraq and Lebanon, and experience working with debris management, and one of our most experienced senior technical advisors globally. And through that, we were able to embed that person into the UNOPS and MAS team in Gaza as part of this in-kind arrangement. And what this meant for us is that that advisor was fully embedded. That was, living in the UN housing, operating under the UN security management system, participating in convoy movements and coordination mechanisms. And this allowed essential EOD assessments to take place. And importantly for us, that continued under the umbrella of the UN security management, which we weren't able to provide ourselves. And critically as well, falling under the United Nations duty of care, not under MAG's duty of care. However, at the same time, MAG was unable to maintain the humanitarian imperative to reduce harm to civilians and to facilitate humanitarian access. So we believe that this arrangement offered benefits for three distinct groups of people or organisations. So firstly, for UNOPS and UNMAS, it brought in additional technical expertise and surge capacity. For MAG, it ensured continued operational relevance and presence at a time when we couldn't have any direct operational access. And importantly, even though the staff member was seconded and underneath the UN duty of care, we were able to maintain kind of strong and daily communications with this staff member, which built our contextual insight and ensured the continuity of our learning about Gaza at the same time. But most importantly, we feel that this arrangement benefited the communities of Gaza who were impacted by explosive ordnance, as this arrangement undoubtedly helped enable life-saving activities to take place. But also crucially for the wider sector, this experience really helped expand on our quite comprehensive understanding of clearance in urban environments and rubble removal in heavily urbanized conflict zones. And the lessons and insights from Gaza have already been shared through various international working groups, helping to inform the sector's broader approach to this issue. Next slide. Oh, can I do it? Perfect. So looking ahead, as Tammy said, it's definitely not a case of this arrangement is the exact arrangement that will work in every single context. But we do know that conflicts are growing more complex, that access challenges continue to increase, and funding resources, as we talked about many times this week, are becoming increasingly stretched. And so one thing we do know is that there's going to be an increasing need for the international community, including the UN system, INGOs and others, to start to collaborate in new ways. So whilst the model in Gaza was a bespoke arrangement that worked for that context, really it's the principles of collaboration and flexibility which were the key foundations for this agreement, and that's what we should truly be learning from. So whilst this isn't at all a full substitute for operational access, it really has been a valuable tool, one that supports shared humanitarian goals, strengthens coordination, and keeps civilians at the centre of our efforts. Thank you very much.
Amazing, thanks, David. And it's this learning that we integrate into growth, evolution, and development of better responses in different contexts that's so important. Thank you very much, David. Now I'll hand over to Ian Anderson, who is a long-standing collaborator across Africa and other contexts to provide the best possible mine action response using a creative commercial lens. And the best part about this, I think, is that it has resulted in quite a lot of development of really interesting local capacity in multiple contexts. And so, Ian, over to you.
Thank you, Tammy. Nice to see a full room on the last day of the conference. And thank you for the opportunity for us to share some of our capacity building experiences that we've had the pleasure to be involved in through the implementation of many different UNOPS projects across the world. There is sometimes a bit of a perception in the industry that commercial companies are more interested in financial gain and not necessarily driven by the need for capacity building. I hope in the few minutes available to us to demonstrate that that's not always the case. We do have and have built many lasting legacies across multiple theatres that we've worked in. In addition to that, TDI have also made efforts to empower women through its projects in sometimes quite challenging cultural environments that we work in. So I've got 3 different examples that I will share with you today. The last one will be a short video, but the first 2 I will talk through. The first one is in relation to, thank you, DRC. This was quite a unique project for us, and we were very pleased to be able to be involved in it. The reason it was quite unique was because it was a partnership between an international organization, TDI, and a local national NGO. Project released by UNOPS, and it was their brainchild, which we were lucky enough to implement. It was specifically designed to develop a national explosive hazard clearance capability with this partnership. So it was TDI and a DRC NGO called SILAM. The requirement is not much different to what we have done, and many other organizations have done, both in the commercial and NGO in many other countries, in terms of training team leaders, deputy team leaders, deminers, medics, drivers, the usual plethora of staff required to implement a clearance project. The subtle difference being that the staff were not employed by TDI, they were employed by SILAM. So it was a SILAM team. Furthermore, and I think this is where it became a little bit unique, was the need to train and then subsequently mentor the project management team of a project manager, a operations manager, and a logistics manager. And I can't necessarily recall in the years that I've been in the business where we've had that opportunity. Yes, many different deminers have been trained through level 1, level 2 courses, raised up to team leader level. But the opportunity to give national staff the opportunity to be project managers and to train them in project management and operations management was quite unique. And that was special, and it set that project aside a little bit. I mean, the end goal of the project was to ensure that SILAM, the national capacity, had direct UNOPS experience and could now be exposed to potentially UNOPS tendering processes. We familiarized them with the ability to write responses to tenders, and they're now able to go on their own, we would hope, in the theatre that we also operate in. The last point on that particular contract that we were involved in was to underline the importance of gender mainstreaming in the industry. And TDI utilized the services of an external gender specialist who ran direct gender training courses with the SILAM staff. So it gave them that additional exposure to the requirements of working in a UNOPS environment. This slide just demonstrates the statistics that SILAM achieved. I know we've all achieved many statistics, and Amir touched on some of the earlier statistics that UNOPS have achieved, but it does demonstrate that they were effective in what they did. Thanks very much. So the next theatre I'm going to move on to is this one. Thank you. South Sudan. You know, UNOPS have been in South Sudan for many, many years, and I think just about everybody in this room has probably had some level of South Sudan experience. TDI has also been there for many, many years. And we've trained and promoted from within many local staff who are filling senior positions in our structure. And I'll mention their names: Hilary Lado, Ochayo Dira, Simon Skopas, Joseph Mako, Awet Awok, all poised and ready to deploy internationally. So they've had local experience, they've come through from deminers, they've come into sort of deputy team leader positions, TFM positions, and this group of staff, and there's more, there's not just those particular names I've mentioned, are definitely in the position now where they will be able to deploy internationally and not just in South Sudan. And that's important. It's important for them to have that international exposure, and we hope that we will be able to give them that opportunity in another theatre at some point in the future. Other staff, we've had a chap called Abraham Matop, who started off as deminer, and he's now on our management team, filling the very important role of national liaison national liaison officer on our management team. And those are just some of the examples of capacity building in South Sudan. You know, there are very many well-qualified, well-experienced South Sudanese personnel who are now in a position to have international experience. The last example will be a video, and I'll just say a few words before we play the video. It was in Somalia. We had a UNOPS project to train and mentor the Somali police force in the implementation of mobile vehicle checkpoints throughout Greater Mogadishu. It involved both male and female police officers. As you can imagine, in that environment, you need to have a gender balance in order to be able to interact with the community. The project, I think, we had 3 teams in total. If you can just move on to the next slide. I think the next slide talks about... thanks, Hannah. Oh, this one, thank you. Samir. Samir started off as a second lieutenant in the Somali police force. And then 5 years after joining the SPF, she was working with the police commissioner. When she came across onto the MVCP project with TDI, initially as a supervisor, we recognized her capabilities and strengths, and she was promoted to deputy commander and eventually lieutenant. So she came up through the ranks, did very well, and was very successful on that project. The video that we're about to play now explains a little bit about her journey, what she's gone through with TDI and the SPF.
So I joined the police force a couple of years ago. I've always been passionate about peace, peace building, yeah, and security studies and stuff like that. So I came with my family when I was around 18 years old. Then I got an opportunity to join the police force. And I did, I took the opportunity. Yeah, so fast forward 5 years after that, I was working with the police commissioner in his office, and then I was assigned the task of mobile vehicle checkpoints.
Right.
So that's how I got involved in it.
Some of the challenges that you've had have been gender-based.
Yes.
Okay. So can you explain some of the challenges that you've had to overcome, how you might have done that?
Well, I wouldn't say I have superpowers, but just being consistent, sometimes being in a whole team, leading, like being a commander or supervising men, it can be very hard, but yeah, we got there.
Okay, and do you still find that there's challenges with gender that you're having to face now on a daily basis?
Oh,
or?
yeah. Plenty of them. So sometimes it might not even be something that they are attacking, but it's just how they were raised or how the society is.
Okay.
So just seeing a woman trying to command a man is just something else. That whole narrative is just sky level.
So it's like we talk about like maybe cultural norms and trying to break down those barriers. Okay. So having worked with you in Mogadishu and seeing you out in the city and seeing the benefits myself, like, how do you feel that females interact in the city? Do they interact in a different way to males? Do they bring something different to the party as well, a different dimension?
Oh yes. So I've just been appointed to a new role, and just seeing people how they reacted to it was a whole kind of different level. So I have been insulted, harassed through social media, people saying random stuff, But then when you go out in the city and try to do your job, you see them coming straight to you, smiling at you, congratulating you, telling you to just move forward, showing you all kinds of love.
Yeah, that's really good. Congratulations. So role models. So I feel like you, as the senior officer within the unit, had at the time 9 or 10 other females that perhaps were looking up to you. Did you feel like you were a role model, and do you have a role model yourself?
I do have role models, and I am a role model. So like, I wouldn't say I was just a role model for females in the unit.
Okay.
There were also boys that were looking up to me, and always coming to me, motivating me, you know, telling me that they liked how professional I was, how I didn't take things personally when things just didn't go right in the job, and we were just dealing with it together and finding ways to solve stuff.
Okay. And are you, if you had to give, or were able to give, some other females that wanted to join the security forces or move into mine action, is there any advice that you'd give to them?
Stay strong, consistent, don't take things personal, because you will hear a lot of stuff, but it's just not stuff that they want to tell you, it's just how things come out of their mouth.
Thank you very much. Just to close, so just a few examples of how a commercial company doesn't just think about the money, but we also have the humanitarian side and are passionate about some of the aspects that Mine Action allows us to do, namely capacity building within the theatres that we work in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to all three of you. Ian, thank you for sharing your reflections from 3 countries, particularly for a very powerful video and the story of Samira, who actually really demonstrated what role model for all of us means. So thanks a lot for that. Tammy as well, for walking us through the examples of Gaza. And David, I do want to acknowledge not only a fantastic support from a colleague from MAG who supported us, but also want to acknowledge the incident on 19th of March and our colleague MAG, and we kind of claim him equally, somebody who works for MAG, somebody who works for UNMAS, somebody who works for UNMAS and UNOPS, but actually has a heart size of this planet. He was also the person who was guiding other injured colleagues during that incident, and actually during the first 10 minutes of the incident helped other colleagues and himself essentially save lives. It was a horrible, tough day. There's these injuries that our colleagues have are life-altering. It's something that they and their families will be dealing with for a long time. It's a very traumatic experience for our team, but I'm very glad that we had Neil on our team that day, because his actions and his response certainly made that very tragic event less so. So thanks again. We'll move to the last but not least segment. Very excited to introduce the panel. To my left, Rory Collins and Lionel Frenier, both working for information management and analytics team within the UNOPS Peace Security Cluster. Over to you.
To your right. Thank you very much, everybody. As Amir said, Rory Collins and myself and Lionel work for IMAT. I hope our story is as inspirational as Samina's. We think it's quite exciting. So IMAT, as our core roles are the building information management systems for reporting mine action activities, but in the last couple of years, I think we've been focusing a lot of efforts on more advanced stuff, remote sensing, AI, etc. And we put together a short demo of some of the stuff. I think it's the best way to show it. It kind of highlights the availability of open source information, the use of AI, and remote sensing technology can play a huge role in building up IM capacity in many AORs that don't have the resources to do that. And a large part of that, of our work has been done through collaborations with MIT, Carnegie Mellon. Lionel actually comes from the Swiss government, which is a huge donor of personnel to our team, which is fantastic, critical to us. Another colleague, Juan, is sitting there as well. So it's a collaborative effort. We tap into a lot of information that's open source. We work with platforms like ACLID, NASA data, etc. So we put all that together and we try to build a better understanding, a common threat picture, or damage assessment in some cases, to help inform planning and prioritization of mine action activities. So we're going to show you a video. I think it's mostly based in Gaza. And then we'll do some demos and we'll take some questions. Thanks, Anna, please.
Urban warfare leaves behind more than rubble. It leaves behind hidden dangers, like explosive hazards, which make recovery dangerous and slow. UNOPS is using innovative technology to help change that. In dense urban areas, where civilians are living near explosive hazards, manual analysis is often too slow and time-consuming. We support clearance teams and local authorities to use satellite imagery, real-time mapping, and AI to conduct rapid and remote assessments. In Gaza, AI algorithms are helping analyze damage data, population density, and infrastructure importance. This helps teams on the ground to allocate resources more effectively. In Syria, AI-powered satellite and drone imagery is helping detect blast-damaged structures, assess building collapse risk, and identify likely UXO hotspots. It is important to remember, these tools don't replace field expertise, they help enhance it, saving time and reducing risk so communities can recover quicker and safer. UNOPS Peace and Security Cluster is committed to advancing innovation in mine action. Because in urban war zones, smart tools don't just save time, they save lives.
It's up to us to ensure that technology and innovation work in service of people, peace, and progress.
Just open that slide again, Anna. So look, behind the technology you saw there, I think it's important to point out, right, it's cloud-based solutions, and that allows us to connect our systems to partner systems, and that's key. It makes it very cost-effective and efficient to share data. So we have these kind of automated data sharing protocols that, when we build an IMS, information management system, for a partner like UNMAS, and we work in a theater like Gaza, we're able to connect our systems to OCHA, for example, or all the other partners who work in there, and the information is shared automatically in the back end, and that just works very well. And then we also, gathering all that information, we're able to use natural language processing. It's a node of AI, so we have tons of information coming in, and then we need to process it. We need to make sense of it. We could do that with personnel. It would take time and resources, or we could use AI, and we use AI to speed up the process. So it gives us, we're putting in information in different languages, different dialects, different thematic-based, or different schemas, example, and we're using AI then to kind of create what we call a single source of truth, like a common understanding of the threat picture, which we then use to inform the planning and prioritization of the mine action activities. In addition to that, we use satellite imagery. Most of it's open source, but we get other vendors as well. And we're able to layer that satellite imagery to give a more informed threat picture as well. So all combined together with the collaborative work with MIT, Carnegie Mellon, our colleagues from the Swiss government, the open source information, and the automated processes we're taking, we think is a very scalable, cost-effective, and efficient way to build an accurate threat picture to inform mine action activities. We are going to demo for a few minutes as well. My colleague Lean is going to give an example from Gaza. South Sudan, apologies. So, Lean, over to you, please.
Thank you, Rory. So this tool here we have been developing is for, EORI for South Sudan is a planning and prioritization tool. But the main thing here is we've been able to use all this information coming from partners, coming from open source mostly, mix that with the algorithm or well, everything coming from the brain power of the academia, such as MIT, such as Carnegie Mellon University. We have been able to put that all together to provide, well, actionable evidences or actionable, well, data or information. And this EORE toolbox for South Sudan is an example of it. It's pretty easy. It has been done in a way that anybody can interact with this AI magic, let's say. We are aware that AI may seem like, well, like an odd things out there, but in fact it's not that complex, and we can prove, well, I will show you how it works and well, how it can be used by anybody. So in this case here, we have two steps. We have first a threat analysis to understand with open source data such as ACLED to understand what is the threat. And then when we understand the threat, we are able to do the prioritization. So I've chosen one area, Rabkona in South Sudan, and by running the analysis, we see that we have external factors contributing to this threat. In this case, population density coming from open source, the roads, flood score coming from NASA and ESA data sets, transport traffic, etc. We see that health, safety, education, and water does not play an important role in this case for the threat. Then we can draw a map of this threat where, while you identify where there may be a danger due to explosive ordnances, you can see that roads are quite important here. And we have been using a very specific kind of artificial intelligence called random forest. So we were able to draw this decision tree, and to in fact understand why there is a threat in this particular area. It may seem a bit odd to read, but it's not that hard, and it makes the thing in fact understandable. So once we understand the threat, we can then run the prioritization, and there we select where URI session has been done already. We select like a buffer distance around this session to well, kind of say where the knowledge has been gone. We use that over the threat mapping, and we can identify area where a URI is needed but has not been conducted in the last year in this case. And yeah, the result is this kind of heat map where red is a critical priority for URI.
So just one key thing there, the AI model itself, you can look into the decisions that the AI is making. So if we feed it a lot of information, you know, you type in ChatGPT, you've no idea where the decisions are coming from. Sometimes they cite sources, but you've no idea how they came up with the answers, right? When we look at this, when we run analysis and we can explore the way that the model thought, its process, we can identify the coefficients or the indicators that are more relevant to the specific AOI or the activity that you're trying to prioritize. And that's very important. You're kind of looking to the thinking behind the AI. And once you're able to control that, you're able to see better or to make better understandings for your specific context. And that's an important, it's a significant thing to have in your toolkit. The other thing as well, just these tools, I mean, they're cloud-based, but they're very easy to deployable remotely. So if you don't have resources in an AOIR country and you don't have the funding and the technical capacity, you can deploy these very easily remotely, which makes it very scalable and, as I said, cost-effective, etc. So thank you very much. Back to you, Amir.
Thank you, Rory. Thanks, Lionel. We said that the third segment is about innovation and really the main label partnership and innovation. So I just want to highlight that your work within the team also lean onto collaboration with MIT, with Carnegie Mellon, with London School of Economics, with thought leadership that actually help us learn. But by now I can also say that we are helping them learn quite a few things. So thanks a lot, demonstrating how being at the forefront of technological innovation and how its application to solve real life problems in mine action looks like. So that would be the third segment. I know we are approaching the end of the designated time. I would like to actually jump into Q&A. Just to remind you, we had 3 sessions. We've heard our colleagues from Ukraine. We heard our colleagues from ATscale work in victim assistance and survivors. We then moved into implementation, looked at the case studies from MAG, from our own work in Gaza, from TDI, and then finally innovation. So really the floor is yours, and tough questions are okay. Please, Pedro.
I had to make one. You knew. Thanks for sharing all these very interesting points. I'd like to make it's pretty much, well, I had many, but I'll choose just one. One question I think goes to the part on innovation, but also to the very interesting part that Tammy and David presented on the partnerships. And the question is, these are to some extent very, very good pilots, pilot initiatives. Where do you see the potential or the challenges to scale these bigger, larger, and for more impact?
I'm speaking on behalf of what we demoed at least, like access to data. Like we build these systems because we don't have the resources on the ground. We don't have access to data for security reasons or other reasons, funding, resources, etc. So we're by default reliant on the data. You know, we can bring as many fancy tools and AI as you can, but unless you have the data, that's the biggest challenge, I would say. Because once we have that, we're sitting in our, in our desk at home, processing all that stuff and providing it back to the ops teams to make decisions who may be in the field. But we need that data, and that's a challenge. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you, Pedro. Pedro is leading innovation agenda within the GICHD, so we've had these and similar discussions, and we'll continue for sure. I would also add that we have a continuous debate amongst our team how to actually scale up fantastic ideas. So some of the ideas will come from the top because you essentially that's your job, but we certainly want to make sure that the field is pushing the needs upwards towards the team like Rory and Lionel to actually solve the problems rather than dictating, creating solutions for problems that don't exist. So there has to be this back and forth constantly between concepts and colleagues like we have with us today to create solutions, but we also need to really be able to scale it and implement. Thank you. Additional questions, please. Pedro, be ready for another.
Would be great to hear from Tammy as well on the partnership initiative, because I think there is a lot to explore there in terms of keeping agility, flexibility, and at the same time highly skilled capacities and high quality capacities, which we know are scarce, and we've seen that for EOD staff. But I could see that applied to many other technology areas or skills areas. So
thank you. Appreciate it. Any additional questions before we wrap up? No. Well, that leaves me with a task to thank everybody, first and foremost the panelists. Thank you for joining us, for highlighting the work of your organizations and how we actually work together. We very much like to say in our toolbox of HR, grants, contracts, to manage relationships, there has to be a win-win. There has to be a joint work. There's no situation in which one side wins, the other one loses. So thank you for being in this with us. I do hope that this cross-section of operations of examples brought to life some of the numbers I spoke about at the beginning, the boxes and numbers. It's really about impact. It's about stories, it's about resilience, it's about people ultimately. So thank you for being with us today. I do also want to thank Karen, who helped us with translation throughout this event, and of course the entire team that worked diligently behind this event to organize it. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conference.